ahead, Jimmy. Show 'em what you got.
Hi, welcome to Stir Fried Gaming. I'm Burnt Circuit, and yes, I am aware my name sounds like it came from a mid-90s movie about hacking the planet.
Hack the planet!
I'm also aware that the following video's use of list format is the most original idea in the history of the internet, and that my sarcasm is thick and deliberate. But there's a good reason for this. The channel's called Stir Fried Gaming because my brain on any given day resembles a pan of things being stir-fried, so I needed something to help organize my thoughts, and list format filled the order. What are you about to watch? Well, it's the wait a minute, I have a title card. So apparently we've been in the next generation for the past 2 months or so. I mean, could have fooled me, like 3 games, you got your Killzones and your Dead Rising 3s, which I haven't played because I don't have an Xbox One, so PC quality version of Assassin's Creed 4. I mean, apparently if I can stick it out with the games I own until March or so, the next gen will truly begin. And when we reach this promised land of actual next generation titles for our next generation machines that for some stupid fucking reason we felt compelled to wait in the cold for, in November, we will get nerd boners so large that our erections will burst through the ceilings of our houses and down airplanes. Change the tides of the planet, make volcanoes erupt. If ladies play, it will flood America's East Coast and West Coast. Floods!
Sploosh.
That was inappropriate. But we're not there yet, so I'm still in the last generation, where all the, games are that I can play. But soon, Generation 7 well and truly will be over. So now's as good a time as any to look back. To that end, I've made the following list. It only contains games from Xbox 360 and PS3 because those are the only 2 consoles I owned. It's not a knock on Nintendo. I love Nintendo. Just don't own a Wii, because money. Also not a knock on PC gaming. Again, because money. And during the last console cycle, I was in college, so I got a MacBook and I regret it, and whatever. A lot of regrets from college. That's not the worst one. Also, this is not a list of good things from the last console cycle. It's just memorable things. To me. So this is a really subjective list. Oh, and before we start, some of these entries are kind of better edited and narrated than others, because as I mentioned, I'm a little ADD, so I didn't do them in order, and it's like 15 is but then like I kind of like 19 and 18. Though I'm just saying it's inconsistent, so sorry about that. Just yeah, bear that in mind. And what number are we on? So I'm sorry to open with a bummer. I really am. And don't worry, I'm not going to be another one of those angry video game playing YouTubers. That position has long since been filled. But bummers, and indeed heartbreak for those of you unfortunate enough to have experienced it, can be as memorable as moments of joy. And Twisted Metal broke my fucking heart. Because I loved the original Twisted Metal titles. 1, 2, 3, 4 doesn't count. Black for PS2, they were all amazing. And Black helped pioneer online multiplayer for consoles when they packaged it with PS2's network adapter. So obviously, I was extremely pumped about Twisted Metal. Wait, just Twisted Metal? Fuck, they're not even trying. I mean, it's okay. I took in all the info I could, all the preview videos, came home and I was eager. I was ready to destroy some environments and try out this awesome looking new online mode they had. I was like a kid again. The little, get that new game smell? Oh, yeah. And you're fucking, you're pumped. And you put it in and fucking terrible. It was fucking terrible. It was a disaster. That online matchmaking I was so psyched about, worse than the PS2 version, which was 10 years old at that point, I'll remind you. It was so glitchy that it became a frustration, and it was aesthetically competent, but it wasn't a graphical showcase, at least not the one they had in the videos. That's fucking false advertising. Bad Twisted Metal. And you couldn't modify the controller, really. There were some preset things, but the whole thing was just this digital pad and analog stick at the same time clusterfuck, and it was just carpal tunnel inducing hellscape from which there was no retreat. How could you do this to me, Twisted Metal? How? Just, so no more bummers. Let's get moving. What's next? Another fucking bummer? Seriously? Fuck! You know what the video game player as a consumer proved last console cycle? That they won't have shit shoved down their throats by massive PR teams that have the audacity to call that shit pudding. So that's the Kinect. Shit pudding. +1 force metaphor. With controls that, in the best cases, inspired reactions like, is it on? maybe we should push the couch back further. Its game library ranged from mediocre to, oh god, make it stop, please make it stop, it's burning my insides. And that's not to mention the much lauded but ultimately broken voice-activated UI commands. Trying to use this damn thing to pause a movie playing at full volume was like trying to warn Doc Brown about the future in the middle of a thunderstorm. But the Kinect did accomplish something. It proved once and for all that a gimmicky, overpriced piece of hardware doesn't a good game make. Wait, wasn't that the Virtual Boy? Or Rob? Or the Power Glove?
It's so bad.
Whatever, Kinect coffin nailed that shit. And that shall be its legacy. Broken promises, bad controls, and doing this to Han Solo.
I'm Han Solo.
The Kinect proved that you can't just make it and expect people to like it, much less buy it, no matter how expensive and cringeworthy your reveal event might be.
Camera. Cheese.
And they did this to Han Solo! Come on! In a generation near defined by DLC and microtransactions, Just Cause 2 is the most beautiful kind of anomaly. Not only did it shirk such greed-laced absurdity, it stood in defiance of it. From the first moments of playing the game, the entirety of Pinal was yours for the taking. Besides, what would a game designed to let the player do stuff like this? Let something like charging $4.99 for a bundle of 100 parachutes stand in the way. Additionally, where most games, especially sandbox titles, would drip-feed abilities, weaponry, and even areas of the map to the player, Just Cause 2 gave you everything it had from the start. You could go so far as to say the atrocious voice acting and plot were intentional, seeming almost custom-tailored to push the player away, encouraging them to explore and experiment like they were romping in, I don't know, a giant sandbox of some sort. Positive-minded conspiracy theories aside, Just Cause 2 was just a damn fun game that reveled in that fun like a pig in slop and encouraged the player to get down in the muck with it. I never even came close to finishing the campaign missions in this game, but I've still logged over 100 hours with it and had a blast every second of the way. Blow shit up, game break for amusement, ride the hood of a car toward a gas station like an irresponsible torpedo, or lanyard a male stripper to the ceiling of a flying dirigible nightclub because he's bringing back memories of an experimental period of college and it's kind of making you uncomfortable. Do as your heart desires. These days, we need to be reminded from time to time that past all the concerns of an ever-growing game industry losing touch with its roots, the money-grubbing, narratology versus ludology debates, and the problems inherent in a burgeoning art form finding its voice, that games are supposed to be fun, damn it! That's why we're all here in the first place. More to the point, this is why we're all here in the first place. Look at these sack people, they're fucking adorable! Just swinging their little legs, you just want to pinch them. Little Big Planet was an extraordinarily well-received game. It was an important part of Sony's finally burgeoning PS3 library during the console's second year. The gameplay was fun, the music was catchy, and alright, damn it, if you didn't crack a smile while playing this game, then you don't have a soul, and you kind of creep me out a little bit. I know I cracked a smile, so did my friends. Grown fucking men sitting on my living room floor, giggling like believers. Under the influence of nothing, mind you. Okay, maybe a few beers. So, Little Big Planet was a great game on its own, but it also came with an amazing level builder that introduced a concept PC users had long been availed of to the average console gamer, that of creative, user-generated content extending replay value. An argument could be made at this point for Halo's multiplayer map editor or something like it, perhaps Excitebike, but the former was a bit more hardcore, and the latter never stopped making this noise. So there goes its replay value. Additionally, those were just map editors, nothing as in-depth as what Little Big Planet had to offer, which essentially functioned as Playschool's My First Modding Pack, another small but important step in the democratization of gaming via the democratization of content. And console gamers could now taste the future, not just those with bitchin' gaming PCs. And Stephen Fry was the fucking narrator. Tell me you aren't wooed by these dulcet tones.
World, an ethereal dreamscape of adventure and possibilities. An abstract plane of beautiful wonderment just waiting to be explored. And you can go there now.
This is a super personal entry, as I grew up hopelessly addicted to every Tekken game released. This generation has seen a huge rise in the popularity of professional gaming across all genres, and 2D fighters like Marvel vs. Capcom 3 seem to be taking center stage for the fighting game. But Tekken will always be the game that holds a specialist of warm and fuzzy, face-smashing places in my heart. Tekken 6 is no exception. There's nothing special here, nothing that really distinguishes it from previous Tekken titles, but I spent night after night with it, bashing my friend Matt's face in with either Jin Kazama or Kazuya Mishima, and damn it, I felt like a kid again. Same as it ever was. A giggle-filled, caffeine-fueled, shit-talking good time. No major changes required. But hey, Namco, if you want to facelift the franchise, that's totally cool too. Do it! Not much is said about this middle-of-the-road hack and slash these days, and with good reason. It was a Barbie game. Not literally. I mean that it was gorgeous, but ultimately hollow and vapid. It did, however, have one thing going for it, and that was Andy Serkis. The man that was Gollum proved yet again that he's the master of performance capture, and no less on his game here than in any of Peter Jackson's theatrical releases.
We must crush the terrorists, the degenerates who defile our pure and wholesome minds with sick pagan imagery and fill our mouths with hot and spicy muck that masquerades as nourishment.
Take it off! Oh my god, I'm coming! Balls are swimming. Suck my ass! He's getting that rash looked at. Holy shit, that's it!
The big reason for Heavenly Sword's appearance in this list, however, is that it was my first PS3 game, and it was gorgeous, and I did ooh and ah. But then the veneer pulled back, and I realized I could just as easily play God of War 2 or Devil May Cry if I felt like hacking and slashing my way to victory. Then it went on the shelf. Was Heavenly Sword epic? Ish. Original? No. Memorable? Of course. In the same way your first sexual experience is memorable. It's terrible, but it's forever burned into your hippocampus. At least Heavenly Sword was hot. What comes to mind when you think of God of War 3? Death, destruction, gore, titties! Ooh, titties. Yes, God of War 3, a game about which I would say, in spite of its pretensions, it's still an extremely adolescent title. If there are any pretensions about God of War 3, I don't think the series has ever really kidded around about the fact that the entire point of it is to gut people, rip eyeballs out of things, and generally just cause mayhem and destruction and then grab some boobs. Because you're the God of War. So why would a game I'd already played 2 iterations of on a previous console that had very little replay value as a result of that end up on this list? Because look at it, it is fucking extremely memorable. It was gorgeous, the set pieces were amazing, the action, while familiar, if I'm being kind, was still extremely well constructed, and look at the size of these titties, they're huge! Just hack hack. I apologize for the adolescent entry, but God of War 3 is an adolescent game, and damn it, that is occasionally fun too. I like games that start a relevant social dialogue or contain artistically relevant gameplay as much as the next gamer, but come on! Every single guy listening has an adolescent man-beast hybrid thing trapped inside of him that needs to be released occasionally, lest we do something unsociable. And that's God of War 3, the id of the 13-year-old boy trapped in arms. Mom, go away and play God of War!
Something's in the room with us.
Jesus! Open fire! Open fire! Thunder! Power! Thunder!
Come on. Got it!
Isaac! Get the hell out of there!
The door's unlocked! Run!
Well, I can't figure out how I'm supposed to segue from that into the rest of this entry, but it needed to be seen. So here's a kitten, and let's move on. This entry is going to focus on Dead Space as a franchise. Therefore, I'm going to try to avoid talking about all the horrible shit they did with the third part in the series, and instead be positive. Yeah! Dead Space 1, most can admit, was a pretty fucking terrifying survival horror game. But it wasn't the smart horror found in games like Silent Hill 2. Dead Space was scary, but it wasn't a game that settled on your soul like Silent Hill's Fog and left you feeling just kind of off for a few days after completion. Dead Space employed a much simpler, to-the-point, kind of scary, which is no less valuable in the grand scope of horror as a storytelling device. But all the scary in the world won't work in a video game if the gameplay isn't there to back it up. And on the subject of gameplay, Dead Space owes a lot to Resident Evil 4. But if we're honest, minigames owe a lot to Resident Evil 4. If nothing else, RE4 gave us the claustrophobic, over-the-shoulder camera angle found in games like Gears of War, Mass Effect 3, and, of course, Dead Space. But Redwood Shores brought their own love for horror to the Dead Space universe, best personified in the location itself. Being trapped in an inescapable environment filled with hostiles, alien or otherwise, is nothing new, but the Ishimura's dank, flickering interiors were treated with a lot of care and were brimming with detail. This went a long way toward filling the player with a sense of inevitable doom and failure. Other great features? Borrowing again from Resident Evil and making protagonist Isaac Clarke control like a fucking Mack truck, removing another element of control from the player and ramping up suspense. 2. Creating truly terrifying monsters in the form of the Necromorph. And 3. Perfectly pacing the game by balancing moments of terror with fleeting moments of safety. Oh, and this. I was really worried about the genre of survival horror until Dead Space 1 was released. Was it exactly the savior I was looking for? Not at all. But it did keep the genre's life support plugged in, which is as noble an accomplishment as any. As for Dead Space 2, more action, yes, it was a little less subtle game than its predecessor. A couple of extra, look at the budget, look at it, set pieces, but it still kept the core, entertaining mechanics of the original intact. And you can still play through the entire game with Dead Space's equivalent of a pistol, the Plasma Cutter, a weapon that is still on my top 10 list of best gaming weapons ever. And I know I'm one of 5 fucking people on the planet that has thought or uttered the following statement, but I really fucking love the multiplayer in Dead Space 2. So fucking satisfying and so balanced, and God, I say fuck too much. As for Dead Space 3, well, I said I was gonna be positive. So if you say the words Mass Effect these days, the first thing that's bound to come up is Mass Effect 3's extremely controversial ending. And it was big news. But much like the Dead Space entry I just made, I'm going to be positive by honoring the best parts of a great trilogy of action RPGs, and not get bogged down in a debate that is not only long since over, but was pretty well covered by the entire internet. I'm also going to avoid topics like the combat mechanics and equipment system, and the fact that the series became more action-oriented as it marched on. I won't even mention the blue boobies, as is usually my wont. Not those kind of blue boobies, damn it. I want to talk about how Mass Effect opened its world to the player. If it was exploring a planet on the Mako in Mass Effect 1, or strolling through the wretched hive of scum and villainy known as the Afterlife Club in Mass Effect 2, or just standing and taking in the superb detail of familiar locations cloaked in the pallor of war in Mass Effect 3, the whole of the Milky Way just felt alive and occupied. An intangible element of many successful games whose requisites are rarely found and difficult to pin down. But in the case of Mass Effect, it certainly had something to do with the cast, who I felt like I came to know well enough that it gave my Shepard his motivation to succeed beyond the common and simplistic heroic goal of saving the world. The series managed to be philosophical without being pedantic or condescending or downright stupid. It wore the mantle of action RPG handsomely by not eroding either element for the benefit of the other. It was balanced in every way it could be, realistically, which is no small feat for any game that endeavors to blend genres. So in short, the Mass Effect series may have ended in controversy, but that controversy only existed because players loved the series so much, and they had a lot of damn good reasons to. As did I. Yes, those blue boobies.
Hold me in them, I never have a chance to get away. I'm with you when I'm gone. I walk the streets on my own all night long, all night long, all night long, all night long.
Red Dead Redemption was initially going to be a lot further back on this list. Then I loaded it up to capture some footage and just kind of refamiliarize myself with it, and was at once reminded of just how profoundly good this game was. Arguably, and in my opinion, Rockstar's best outing to date. The shooting and travel mechanics were clean and well executed. The protagonist, John Marston, was at once relatable and pitiable, obtuse and hateable. The scenery was gorgeous and varied, Rockstar having accomplished the seemingly difficult task of making the barren landscape of the American West at the turn of the 20th century into a location that begged exploration. It was, to my mind, the first time a video game had effectively, and I mean really effectively, been able to tell a tragic tale. And tell that tale while harnessing the storytelling advantages video games offer as an artistic medium. Redemption also had a spectacular ending that I won't spoil for you here, on the off chance you haven't played it. Suffice to say, it was the only way it could end. So I'm gonna let Red Dead Redemption speak for itself now, and leave you there. I'm Burnt Circuit, thanks for watching, I'll see you next week.